tries to mug you? What? What if your government tries to throw you in a can? What? You're gonna want a shotgun. Oh. What? An automatic rifle. And a lot of ammo. Good?
We're all set to riot. Buy a gun. Before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They'll burn you out like a Waco. They'll stick your ass in a camp. Jack booty cops in riot gear. Gonna kick your ass and laugh. The revolution is on its way. Better lock and load your AK. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, buy a gun, buy a gun, buy a gun, buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. We're all set to riot. Buy a gun. Before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They gave your money to the banksters. They stole your pension funds. It's time that we took to the streets. It's time we had our turn. A revolution is on its way, and the founding fathers would say, buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Get a riot in the streets. Revolution's
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is Tuesday. We are live. This is PrimerTime on UCY.tv. My name is Michael. I'm kind of disappointed.
No, I am Nicholas, and once again, we are preparing for the assault on your right to bear arms.
We're in, speaking in reference to the events in Las Vegas over the last couple of days. It's a tragedy. It's an insane loss of life from frankly, an insane individual. If it's proven that this guy is the shooter and all that, I don't know. The situation is pretty grim and pretty spectacular in a bad way. You've got a guy from the 32nd floor of a hotel firing onto a crowd, and
Or not.
or not. There's a lot of questions. Just like every one of these events that ends up threatening gun rights, there's a lot of questions that don't match the story. And I can honestly say that I listened to the scanner as it went down on the Broadcastify app. I listened to the Las Vegas Metro Police Department, and I listened to it for about. I actually heard gunfire on the radio from the shooter, and I heard gunfire on the radio from the police. I heard the explosion that breached the door, and then during that, there were several other reports of shots fired at hotels up and down the Strip, not just at the Mandalay Bay. There were shots fired at New York. There were shots fired at the Paris. There were shots fired at the Tropicana. There were shots fired at Harrah's. There were shots fired at Bally's. And this was all in the live broadcast, I guess you'd say, the Las Vegas Police Department dispatch. And I understand it was a hectic scene from the amount of traffic on their radio and sightings of other people carrying weapons, people acting suspicious. I find it hard to believe that this guy is the only shooter, and not to mention that today I've seen a video of flashes of light that coordinate with the gunfire coming from like the 4th floor, and then I've seen photos of the building in the daylight today where there's broken windows on the 4th and 10th floor, along with the ones on the 32nd floor. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting because there's multiple videos out there that were being uploaded to YouTube very quickly, or if they were not already being live streamed from cab drivers that were pulling into the parking garage at the Mandalay Bay, and you could hear that the shooting is coming from above them, and then as the one female cab driver circles around to the front of the building of Mandalay Bay, she informs guests that there's shooting going on, and then as she's driving away, you can clearly see from not very far up that there's flashes, presumably muzzle flashes and whatnot.
And you have to make the distinction that from not very far away is not the 32nd floor is what we're saying.
Yeah, certainly not at least from the vantage point that they've shown the two blown out windows on the side of the uppermost portion of the building.
Right, and I've seen a photo today of windows blown out lower than that, and it's not necessarily, it doesn't jive with the story, which the story stinks anyways, right? Because here's this guy, he's well, honestly, he's a wealthy man. He's sitting on $800,000 in the bank. He owns a house that's $400,000 in a gated community in Mesquite, Nevada. He owns a home and some apartment complexes in Mesquite, Texas. He's got several apartment complexes in Orlando, Florida. He owns 2 planes. He's a gambler. And I don't know.
The interesting thing that I see about that is when it came to the CNN or whoever it was that ambush interviewed his brother in Orlando, that was a guy who handled a conversation amazingly well for having a family member who just committed mass murder.
Yeah, like a little too well almost.
Yeah, it was like the guy was almost aloof, checking his phone. Just kind of, oh, well, shit happens.
Yeah, it's once again, there's a lot of things that stink about these things, but the only consistent fact between all of these is that it garners public outrage. It dominates the media attention for a great period of time, and that's something I'd like to get back to in just a second. And then it seems that there's never any security cameras that work in the vicinity of the incident. And during one of the press conferences, the chief of police or whoever he was from Las Vegas came out and said that the video cameras in the hotel weren't working. Now, I've been to Vegas, and I'll tell you what, every inch of that city, except for inside the hotel room itself, and probably within the hotel room itself in some of them, is videotaped from 4 different angles on closed-circuit TV.
Absolutely. But that is one of the things about Las Vegas that you have to know going there. It is probably one of the safest cities in the United States, and not only that, it is one of the cities where law enforcement doesn't muck around.
No, law enforcement in Las Vegas is all about keeping the casino happy. And
that's right.
That means not screwing around with tourists and basically keeping the area safe, making sure that tourists don't get screwed around with. The casinos and the cops work together very close. I don't know what you want to call that kind of a relationship. I'm just going to say that it exists. So the fact that this one floor has non-functional cameras, number one, I highly doubt that hallway only has one camera in it.
Yeah, certainly you would expect to have cameras on any entrance, via a elevator or escalator or in the hallway, midway down the hallway, at the other end of the hallway, probably on an emergency exit. Yeah.
Yeah, I would guess in the middle of the hallway there's 2 or 3 cameras. They want evidence is what they want. It's all about documentation, and photos like this are documentation for anything that happens in court. And that's really what they know where they can get screwed is if they lose in court. So, this is part of their game. So I find that to be just totally, totally rank. That's just stinky. I think something that bodes poorly for our side, one of the differences in this event versus some of the other events is that this actually happened on a Monday, or it broke on a Monday. You know, what happened on
Monday night.
Or it happened on a Sunday night. Monday morning, everybody woke up with it, and that contrasts that with any of the other, like the last one at the school in Connecticut. That actually happened on a Thursday, and so there was outrage on Thursday, outrage on Friday, a little bit of outrage on Saturday, but hey, there was sports going on, and then Sunday it was football, and Monday they had to crank it back up, but I think it would have been. I think they would have had much more momentum if it would have been on a Monday.
The funny thing is that I think, I mean, if the last 11 months, 12 months have taught us anything, is that there is no media that is not biased one way or the other. And for the most part, most American media is heavily biased towards the left. On that, you would figure that if you've got between Stephen Colbert, the fat guy from CBS, Jimmy Kimmel, everybody in their mother
should be the new spokesman for Tampax or Playtex or something like that.
You know, you would figure that between them and then between the Bill Maher's, the Chelsea Handlers, the Lena Dunhams, everybody that thinks they have a social mouthpiece, this is all they talk about. And for what?
This is almost like a wet dream for them. I mean, we saw it with Hillary Clinton. First thing Monday morning was, could you imagine if the shooter would have had a silencer and nobody could hear him? What?
Well, that's just what that just comes down to is idiots fucking proving that they're stupid by opening their mouth.
Honestly, at that moment, I wished for Hillary Clinton with a silencer.
Yeah, that would be the only one that matters.
In the media, silencers are suppressors are a topic because of what's it called? I think it's called the SHARE Act now. It's changed. It was the Hearing Protection Act. And it's more
the shush. It used to be the shush.
And now I don't know what it's called, but it's the provision to treat silencers like a firearm, like a normal background check, and purchase it at your local academy or local gun shop. That bill is now under assault heavily, and I find, once again, people who don't know the difference between a semi-automatic rifle and a machine gun, it extends into the silencer world, the suppressor world. I believe it was Charles Schumer earlier today was talking on, I think it was CNN, and he was saying, why so the deer doesn't hear where the shot's coming from? It's like, no, you moron. It's to protect the hunter. It's to protect the dude firing the weapon. You're gonna shoot the goddamn deer anyways. Who cares if he hears it?
Yeah, the problem is that anybody that's ever used, and in the United Kingdom, these are totally legal. They're called moderators. Anybody that's used them is well known, so that way you can go ahead and protect your hearing. Because for the longest time, they wanted folks to use muzzle brakes to reduce the recoil on guns, and that was damaging people's hearings.
Well, and I mean, in a lot of places in Europe, it's mandatory that you hunt with a silencer, and it's to protect your neighbors. Yeah.
The big thing is that if a silencer was used and with that rate of fire, I think we could well say that silencer would have melted down, probably would have caused a barrel malfunction and had that thing blow up.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, and a silencer that would work would have to be like the size of like a 5-gallon bucket from Home Depot, with a 10-gallon reserve jug connected to it.
Exactly. Probably with some antifreeze.
Yeah. Something that won't boil off.
Yep. So when it comes down to it, I think that we're so early into this that if anything, I think that the law enforcement in Nevada will come out and say, hey, these are some hard lessons that we learned. We can't have venues that are not easily scrutinized for security. and we can't have vantage points that reach approximately 22,000 people. That's just
how do you do that? What do you ban
you
hotels?
move them inside. You move them inside to a venue. It may be hell trying to do that in Vegas, because when people want to come to Vegas, they like the freedom of movement. They like not being harassed. They like being able to go from place to place. But you know what? We changed the way we did business after 9/11 for how we get on an airplane, right? We've been doing that for the last 17 years, and nobody's because of it. So, I mean, I think it's a...
Well, that's interesting that you bring that up, and that you say that we changed after 9/11. And one of the provisions that I've heard today is that they're looking to put the same scanning machines that they have at the airport, the backscatter and terahertz radiation scanners, the nudie scanners, so to speak. Right. And looking to put those in now, or there's a proposal to put those in. And you really start looking at who's involved with this. And once again, we find the hand of the Irishman all over it.
Solange.
Yeah, Solange. Yeah, exactly. We've got Sheldon Adelson, who is a casino magnate, also owns newspapers in Los Angeles. I think he owns I think it's the Las Vegas Sun is the name of the paper. He is in cahoots with Michael Chertoff, who is the
former director of Homeland Security.
Right, and he was on the board of the company that created the
backscatter,
and pushed them through. As now, it's in every. It's in every airport, multiple units in every airport. They're trying to put them in prisons. They're trying to put them they want to put them in schools. I don't know. I look, with Jews, you lose. That's just the rule. And you're getting screwed on this deal again. I mean, this just stinks a little bit too much. I mean, there's too much merchant profit built into it. And it's... honestly, it doesn't benefit. None of the outcome of this benefits any American anyway. But the push is going to benefit the people who hate America and want to take away your guns, want to make you go to war in the middle of the desert for another country's goal and gain. They're going to be the ones that win again.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to it, you're going to see. Like you said, I mean, you're going to see the big push from the likes of Hillary Clinton, and if anybody just needed a silencer, it was her, right?
A silencer, a muzzle brake. Wait, I'd like to give her a shoulder thing that goes up.
Oh, Jesus Louise, yeah. But I mean, here's the thing. We used to have presidential elections where the vanquished would quietly go away. I mean, that's just not the case anymore. This is not only do you have somebody who flat out lost an election that was gift wrapped for her, but she can't shut up about whose fault it was, and nowhere in there does she say her own name.
She's never going to take any sort of. She's in an interesting position. She's like unemployed, so she can make as many pot shots as she wants. She's got enough, she's got enough morons in so-called pussy hats with purple hair out there screaming that, the orange Cheeto Jesus is ruining your life. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, you were talking about, Donald Trump saying that at some point they may decide to have a conversation. You ever notice how the paradigm shift occurs? It starts with the language, because when you used to say something like, "Hey, I want to have a conversation," you automatically take the rhetoric down. Now, if you want to have a discussion, that's really aggressive. But if you want to have a conversation, that's very inclusive.
Well, and there's also like this change in the language, because they say they wish to have a conversation, and a conversation applies like a back and forth. You put in yours, I put in mine, and we come to an agreement or a status about the whole conversation. That's not what they want. They just want to lecture you and tell you how it is.
Yeah. Well, and then that's the thing. I live in a single party controlled city, and the only conversations they want to have are between themselves on the city council, and they don't care what your opinion is. They don't want to hear it.
Well, you're just small potatoes at that game.
Hey, man, we are the center of the resistance.
Yeah. What do they call it? The center of the Trump gret.
Yeah. So what did we see from the media immediately after the shooting? We saw the vice president of the legal department of CVS be summarily fired.
And did you happen to take a look at this fine Irish lady's name? Her name is Haley Jeffman Gold.
You leave Mary Margaret Catherine O'Shaughnessy alone.
Mrs. O'Hara misspoke when she said that.
Yeah. Not to mention her maiden name was like Lagerman. Letman. There you Letman. Go. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, once again, it's okay. They were just country music listening goys who probably owned a firearm. I have no sympathy.
They had it coming.
Yeah. So, I mean,
she said if they can't lift a finger for kids, then they get what they deserve.
Cultural Marxism. And, I mean, Marxism is Judaism. That's just the way it is.
Well, it's the Jews who didn't want to go to synagogue.
Well, it's the synagogue of Satan, but I mean, whatever. So let's get to the real thing that everybody wants to know is
about the Bass Pro Shop Cabela's murder.
Yeah, we're close. That's next. What did this guy have? Well, had.
Yeah, this is going to be your area because, like I said, I've been working for the last 2 days and had zero time.
Excuse me. Per the Daily Mail out of the UK. With photos.
I was going to say, which they tend to get better photos and actually publish them.
They get some seriously good photos, and they're kind of tabloidy, but every once in a while they've got some really, really good stories. If you can avoid getting, distracted by Kim Kardashian's naked ass on the side of the screen. They said that this guy had 6 Daniel Defense M4s, which are basically the same rifle as an M4 minus the select fire capability. It's a high quality rifle. They are not cheap. I think last time I saw a Daniel Defense rifle, I think it was like $1,600, to be honest with you. He had 3 of those. He had a Colt, I want to say it was a 6980. I'm just kind of remembering off the top of my head after I read it. Colt has more numbers, following their rifles than Harley has letters following their bikes. So it's a 6980. All I know, it was an 18-inch heavy barreled, and it had a fairly nice furniture package on it. He also had 3 FN-15s. Those are nice rifles, and those don't come in anywhere less than $1,400 a piece. He had high quality magazines. He had the Beta Mags, the C Products Beta Mags, the real deals, not the Korean imports or somebody's
bringbacks.
Crap. Yeah, or not even bringbacks. I mean, some knockoff. He had the real deals, and those things are $650. He also did have the slide fire stock attached to a few weapons, and that
he had them mounted on tripods, if not mistaken.
He did have bipods and tripods, and I saw a picture, and he had, I think it would have been about 10, 15 of the Coffin mags. I think they're Surefire makes them, and it's a 60 round box magazine. It's a double magazine, and he had a pile of those. And I'll tell you what, them things are kind of pricey too. I don't necessarily like them because they're pricey, but he had a pile of those. So this guy spent money. He didn't do this with a Lorsen 380.
Yeah. And not only that, he did this legally, if I'm not mistaken, because the FBI has been very quick to specify that he purchased all this legally and without having any issues, to include previous law violations, with the exception of a civil matter that was handled in court appropriately.
Yeah. There's been a couple of. He bought some at a Cabela's. He bought some at a place called Guns and Guitar, and then he bought a place at a place called Gun World. And all three places have employees that remember him and don't recall any kind of red flags going up. Now, that could be them covering their ass, but if somebody's like in there, I guess, buying stuff that's not actually cheap, I mean, that's a significant investment for some of these items. And if they're giving you a red flag, I don't think that I think in the climate, I don't think they would have completed the transaction. And honestly, at Cabela's,
yeah, it leaves them open to severe liability.
Absolutely. So it just, there's a lot that doesn't end up making sense on this in several different ways.
Did you happen to notice any Magpul PMag for the 60 or 100 rounds? Was there any drums? Was there any box magazines? Did you happen to see anything like that?
I saw in the photos I saw he had the C Products mag, the 60 round coffin magazines attached. There was also a few Kalashnikov variants in there. The article didn't specify the brand. I think the Kalashnikov is just scary enough on its own. You don't actually have to say the manufacturer's name. And they had mentioned there were drums for those. And Kalashnikov drums hold anywhere from 75 to 125. And there's a stop at 90 in there, 90 and 100 as well. So, I mean, these are, he had a lot of ammunition.
Yeah, and they were saying that not only did he have ammunition with him in his hotel room, when they conducted the search of the residents in Mesquite, Nevada, they also found a couple of components that could link up together to be called ammonium nitrate.
Yeah, but that one, look, if you have fertilizer in your garage because you have a garden and you have PVC, you could have they call that bomb-making components.
It sounds like constructive intent.
That's exactly what I'm saying. So, I mean, like, anybody who's got a garage and has got, like, I don't know, stump remover or, fertilizer and a pipe, you've got the makings for a bomb and you're a potential terrorist.
Yeah. Well, I think being as early into this as they're going to be, they haven't even been able to clear most of the affected area. Hotel is still under wraps. You sent me a link today that said, Mandalay Bay is going through and doing some canceling of performances, specifically the Michael Jackson. The Michael Jackson, I don't even know what you call that guy. He's the impersonator.
Impersonator?
Yeah, that's been canceled at the Mandalay Bay. This is going to cost. I think I saw a story that said it's going to cost the business conglomerate from Mandalay Bay $1 billion in lost revenues.
I can see that. I can totally see that.
But the good news is there's a bunch of hotel rooms that just opened up.
Yeah, I'm really kind of in shock over the whole, and not necessarily in shock, but I'm in shock that I was right about how the media spin has been played. It's been
I think we have a lot of examples of what this was going to be, and it didn't take but how many minutes for a message to come out from Hillary Clinton and from Gabby Giffords, who, again, they keep referring to her husband as Captain. I hope that when I get out of the military, people will still refer to me by my rank, even though I no longer am. That's one of the things that just, it's insane that these people still have a mouthpiece after so long. And realistically, the guy should be in jail for trying to falsify a 4473. So,
well, and not only that, I mean, he's pimping out a retard. I mean that. Look, she took a bullet to the head. She can't speak a sentence without somebody feeding it to her. She's not she's not a congressman anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
look, we got John McCain with a goddamn brain tumor the size of a bowling ball on his head, and he's still out there fucking around with the votes. If she doesn't even meet that standard, she is like retarded. She's brain damaged, and no insult intended, but she's not a representative of anything. She's an example of what happens. That's it. And Mark Kelly, astronaut, whatever, he's a pimp. He's pimping out a handicapped person.
Yeah. Well, there's going to be a lifelong necessity for that. That's the cause celeb from them, and they're not going to change their tune.
Yeah. So I don't know. So be prepared. We've already seen. We were talking just before the show just about how prices are changing, and I don't know. I think I saw it a little bit more acutely than you did, but I don't know. Do you have any kind of comment on that? I think the price.
So I think that like I said, the issue that I see is going to be in the interim. I think the markets are going to react in terms of, I know stocks for gun manufacturers have already gone through the roof, which is good for most of us that own the gun stocks. The incessant attacks on the NRA and calling them complicit in these events. I mean, just on the sheer fact of when a Democratic senator who's about to be indicted, and I'm talking about Menendez out of New Jersey, when he gets indicted for corruption.
And remember to say what he's being indicted for.
A few trips here and there to Pedophile Island, I believe.
I believe that's it.
Yeah. So does that condemn all Democrats as being responsible for the abduction, molestation, and continued imprisonment of underage girls in Colombia or wherever this place is?
It's actually off the coast of Florida.
Oh, even better, because I thought it was like Dominican Republic or something like that.
No, I know he went to the Dominican Republic a couple of times, and I think you'll find with a lot of these guys who travel to like these third world country places like that to see the culture, whether it's in Central America or if it's in Southeast Asia like the Philippines or Thailand or something, they're going there to get their knob polished. That's just it, by underage kids that they can't do it here with, or they go to jail and lose their cushy pad in the middle of Mesquite, Nevada.
Yeah, of course.
So I don't know.
I just think that when they get into the habit
and trying to push it onto us.
Yeah, when they get in the habit of condemning everybody for one person's action, or supposedly one person, as far as what we're being told by FBI and local law enforcement, I mean that's really disingenuous. I mean you can't criticize, if we can't criticize the children of illegal aliens for being in the country illegally, then how can we expect everybody else to feel the pain for this guy doing whatever he did? It's not consistent logic.
Well, logic went out the window the minute they said they needed to have a conversation.
Yeah, as soon as you know that, you can rest assured that there won't be a conversation, and it won't go well for you, even if it did.
So, I mean, they keep on screaming about, the NRA is the devil and blah, blah, blah. Remember, the NRA's got, 140 million, 150 million people in it?
Nearly half the population of the United States.
Pretty damn close. How many NRA members have been implicated in this?
I'm going to say probably zero.
This guy wasn't an NRA member. He did have an Alaskan hunting license, a Nevada hunting license, and a Texas hunting license.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like it equals being an NRA member.
Right. So I don't know. Just watch your ass, people, because it's on the way. Like we were talking before, we took a quick look at one of the lower priced retailers for AR-15s and AR-15 accessories, Palmetto State Armory, and we found a 223 Wild rifle with an 18-inch barrel, and that was still moderately priced. What did we say it was?
$499.
$499. and which is up from, in the past couple of weeks we've given prices. I think we even had a kit one time as low as like $319. I think is what we had a kit that we were commenting on the drop in price as well. You and I may have different opinions, but I'm thinking that a 223 Wild rifle with an 18-inch barrel has been sitting on the shelf for a while. They haven't been able to sell it, so now they've marked that up and given it the prominence in the light to where it's going to sell. Because if there's a gun ban bill within the next 2 weeks, like I kind of feel that there is.
Well, there may be the bill, but I like I said, I don't think that the action will come with it. I saw
the
a
bill
brief.
Is strong enough. The bill scares people into buying.
Well, that's true, but and wouldn't you think about it? Isn't that kind of looking like they're working with the gun industry? If that's the case, and they know that they have no.
It would bring into a question like: does Feinstein own a portion of a hedge fund that's got invested in gun stock?
Yeah, I mean there's a story on Mitch McConnell saying that it's too soon to examine gun laws. Well, that to me means that it's not even going to come to a discussion in the Senate.
I have a feeling that we have, like we said, we're still very early into this, and the media push has been hardcore. Honestly, lucky for us that Puerto Rico got hit by a hurricane, and it would be bigoted to avoid talking about Puerto Rico, and it's still a good chance to nail Trump. If not, I think it would be 24/7 gun control talk.
Oh, absolutely. And if you listen to CNN, that's exactly what you're getting all day. Because as soon as Chris Cuomo gets on it, Anderson Cooper gets on it, Don Lemon gets on it. I mean, the only thing that they're missing is Christiane Amanpour showing up right as soon as the shooting was getting ready to take place.
Close enough to Christiane Amanpour was Chrissy Cuomo was in Las Vegas this morning. I can't tell you exactly how much distaste I have for that guy. I think he's miscast in his life's role. I think he'd be an excellent arena football announcer.
Yeah, he should be an arena football tackling dummy, that's for sure.
I think he'd almost like that. Remember his father, the former governor of New York, Mario Cuomo, called him half a fag.
Well, there you go. There you go. So the way I look at it is, it's going to be interesting in the next couple of days when more and more information starts coming out. Who's to say that they don't come out and say, we are looking for additional people of interest, and other people have come forward with information that has led us to believe that this quite possibly could have been a coordinated attack, and or other information that has not been released as of yet.
Just the amount of firearms in the room that the police say they recovered, to me, indicates that there's no way it was one guy. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense, And then, I mean, bringing it back, like you were talking about the cabbie video today, and then the videos that I've seen where there's flashes from, I don't know, I think, it's they take the guns and they can do whatever they want to you. You've lost that last, best, most vocal way to say, no, I do not comply.
This guy certainly didn't comply.
Well, in the end, I mean, I think that's what they want for us, Yeah.
Oh, well.
And then let's not even bring up the fact that immediately, ISIS claimed responsibility for that, which, by the way, came from Pamela Geller's website.
Yeah, this is the lady who did
how did the Israelis know, and the Israeli mouthpiece know that this dude joined ISIS? Is that the Palestinians are your problems, Goy? Yeah. So it all stinks too much for me. I mean, I've got sympathy for the loss of life. I think it's horrible. Unfortunately, I think the people are pawns. And I'm really sorry for that, but I don't trust any of this shit because, honestly, they want to take the guns because once they take the guns, they can do whatever the hell they want to you.
That's true. That is true. But, I think in the meantime, I think that there's concern right now that the Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy may be getting ready to retire. And I think that the conversation changes quite frequently if, in fact, he announces that he is going to retire. Because what does that do? That gives Donald Trump, who is nary, I say, less than a year into his presidency, the opportunity to appoint two conservative-minded justices who will significantly impact for the court for the next 30 years.
Well, we can say conservative-minded, but until we actually get them out there and put them on the field, we don't know. Because remember, Justice David Souter was supposed to be a conservative-minded justice. David Souter did not turned out to be anything but a conservative, anything but a strict constitutionalist.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that I think that his legal opinions hadn't been scrutinized. Either that, or he had too few legal opinions that really didn't outline what his belief was.
Well, I don't know. I don't find any kind of redress through the system that's actively intercoursing you.
No, so. It's going to be interesting to see, because if they do actually announce a retirement, that would leave a court that is, gosh, think back how far it was to get Neil Gorsuch confirmed, which actually had the Senate change the rules, and which was decried on all fronts by every Democrat, including John McCain, for the lack of decorum and the lack of process. Right. It'll be interesting to see what the people of Arizona do. I mean, we talked about that last week, and I haven't heard any additional information about recall efforts that may seek to oust John McCain. But I
think the biggest recall effort facing John McCain is the tumor two-step right now.
Yeah, but he can hold on with that for a while, and not only that, he can obstruct. He may not necessarily be able to do anything other than obstruct, but he's more than happy to do that. His political grandstanding on the vote for healthcare was evidence enough that this is a very bitter, jilted old man who lost a presidency and has taken personal attacks from the sitting president right now, and is doing everything in his power to obstruct. And I don't think that's what the people of Arizona elected him for when his term was coming to a close last time around. And
it's got nothing to do with the people of Arizona anymore. I mean,
no, not that he ever really did.
I don't know. So, just another aside. This guy was alleged to, and the photos are there. With a couple of rifles with the bump fire stocks on, and media today was, talking about the low price of being able to, buy one of these things for $50, and now you've got yourself a machine gun. Wake up call! Those are no longer $50. Those are about $250 now. You can get a left-handed one for about $170 now, but a right-handed one is, because of the way those things work, they're dependent on hand position, so you can't necessarily swap hands with the rifle. But yeah, the one for the right-handed people, that one's $250.
Right. Yeah, I think that anybody that goes out and tries to purchase them is going to have to do that by way of private party sales and maybe pawn shops.
I think pawn shops. I almost feel that pawn shops are even worse on the price at a time like this. I think they just. Number one, I don't think pawn shops are necessarily a good deal for firearms, anyways. Not at least the ones in my area, and right. I think that when the opportunity strikes, I think they adjust the prices accordingly, and I think they're almost like a smaller local version of cheaper than dirt.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and not only that, the quality for what they have is dependent upon, somebody who probably didn't know what they had in the first place.
Well, not only that, and somebody who didn't take care of it. I mean, I've got a buddy who buys at pawn shops, off and on, and he'll give me a call and, what do I think of this? Is this decent? What isn't? And more often than not, I've had to steer him away from like Chiappa products. And Chiappa and Taurus products tend to show up in the pawn shops. I'm not knocking on Taurus too much because I've had Taurus pistols and not all of them are perfect, but some of them are actually excellent firearms. Chiappa, nothing from Chiappa. Sorry.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, hey, we need to hit some firearm safety rules.
All right. First rule of firearm safety is every firearm is loaded until you visually and physically inspect that firearm. Make sure that it is not loaded. Rule number 2, keep the muzzle pointed in a safe direction. Do not cover anything you do not wish to destroy with the rifle. Rule number 3, know what's the target, know what's beyond the target. Rule number 4, keep the booger hooked off the bang switch until you're ready to discharge the weapon. We're in a kind of a desperate time right now, or headed into a desperate time. Don't give them any more than they already have.
Oh yeah. And with that, 99% of the gun owners out there never give anybody a reason to, think that they're anything other than law abiding. It's the 1% that speaks the volumes, right?
Yeah, I mean, like if we like really look at it, what's the count in the United States? We got something like 310 million people, 330 million people if you include every dreamer and all that, and the firearms numbers are something like 350 million firearms. So I mean, there's more than one gun for every person in the United States. With that's like an associated 4 trillion rounds in private hands. If gun owners were the problem, you'd know about it. And this guy's an aberration. The guy who shot up, the Texas Tower shooter, Charles Whitman. I mean, that got a brain tumor on his head. You should say that this guy doesn't have something like that.
Well, the interesting thing is that they were talking about this is now the deadliest the deadliest shooting event in the country with a mass shooting, overtaking the Pulse nightclub. I think that we have a very macabre, fascination.
Do you think that's got something to do with the video game culture?
No, absolutely not. I don't think it has anything to do with it, because if you think back when you and I were growing up, gangster rap was being labeled by Tipper. Was it Tipper Gore? I believe it was Al Gore's wife. Yeah. Was saying that explicit music was turning our children's mind into mush and then enticing them to kill at will. I don't know anybody who used it was the House of Pain that made me do it.
Yeah. I don't know, but honestly, now we're giving it away because you just said Tipper Gore. So we're old. That was 20 years ago. The Merchants had plenty of time to put his hand into the music business. Because honestly, look at some of the music now. What would you have imagined if you'd have heard something like Nicki Minaj? Have you ever actually heard Nicki Minaj?
Not at all. Because as I told you earlier, I don't listen to music. I would much rather listen to information.
Oh, I understand that, but I'll tell you this. I've heard it. I worked at some places that played music somewhat, so to speak, and that's foul. I can think maybe the most foul stuff I heard when I was at that age group that we were talking about would have been some of the really some of the deeper tracks off of an NWA album, or that the 2 Live Crew "Me So Horny" album. That was about as raunchy as it got, and that's like Sesame Street rap.
Oh yeah, that's the gateway rap.
Yeah, the gateway rap. So I don't know, man.
I just think that people are going to start looking for an excuse to ban anything. I'm surprised. Literally, the one person who I am surprised I haven't seen, and I can picture it in my mind. Imagine for me, if you will, an Irish senator who has gray slick back hair and has his glasses partway down his nose, standing at a dais, looking down at you, telling you how evil this is. Can you imagine the name?
I think it's Chuck from the County Schumer.
Yes, absolutely. And that's one person and like I said, I haven't been going out of my way to hear anything, but I'm surprised that there's not a large press conference involved where Crying Chuck is up there telling us how horrible this is.
It's on the way. It's on the way. I'm telling you, within 2 weeks, there's going to be some kind of like collaboration between Feinstein, Schumer, and I don't know, maybe Maxine Waters. You know, get a person of color in there because of all the outrage. And,
yeah. Well, and the one thing that they didn't capitalize on that I've heard of is that I haven't heard that any children were shot.
I mean, thank God. Seriously, thank God no kids were shot. But Jesus, if kids were shot, that'd be it. And it would be. They'd change the name of CNN to GNN. You know.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
But, yeah. So now that being said, are there any kind of gun shows near you anytime?
No, we haven't had the Western Virginia Sports Show, and that hasn't happened in a while. And unless you get up towards the DC area, we get some pretty small ones. Richmond has a larger couple of venues, but yeah, out here I am in very, very backwards Virginia. And we don't get what the rest of the United States gets in terms of decent firearms trade shows, anything like that at all.
Well, there's one coming up down here on the 21st. I think I'm going to go do it.
Okay, well, that'll work.
I have a feeling it's going to be. I have a feeling it's going to be fairly busy.
Oh, I'm sure it will.
That there will be many dollars being spent due to the impending rush and the opening of several seasons.
Say that again?
The opening of several seasons.
I'm not following you.
We got bird season coming up. We got
we're talking hunting wise.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Yeah, as a matter of fact, out here we have the opening of bow season on Saturday.
So we're looking at probably an increase in shotgun sales, and you found a fairly decent price on the hot toy of the year right now.
Yeah, the Shockwave 590. Yeah.
What did you say it was? It was $359 at Palmetto State.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah, that's a pretty. I'm telling you, it's a nifty little thing. Just for the fact that it gives the middle finger to the NFA. That's just it's really too cool for what it is, and it may end up becoming a target at some point. Just because of its short barreledness. I don't know, man. It's all up in the air right now. All I can say is hold on to what you got. Don't give up anything, and don't fall into that trap of like burying them in PVC in your yard, because the day you bury them is the day you need to use them.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think most people are going to find out that a little too late, or after they've gone to the pawn shop and decided to get $150 cash.
Yeah, that's just, I don't know. There's been all kinds of in several media. I even noticed that like some of my local gun forums that I keep an eyeball on. There's been what's wrong with universal background checks? What's wrong with a limit on magazine capacity?
Why do you need an AR-15?
Why do you need a car that does 80 miles an hour? There ain't no 80 mile an hour speed limit anywhere. It's 75, except them people in Montana who don't count.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Montana, they actually got a early season snowstorm all the way from Montana down through Wyoming and the Front Range in Colorado.
Further proof of global warming.
That's right. Here it is, the first week of October, and they are getting some massive 30-inch snow totals up in Wyoming and actually Montana. And then all throughout the skiing zone in Colorado, we're talking 15, 16 inches. That's a good start to the season.
I got a feeling that a couple of ski buddies I know, Mr. Matty Clues, will be looking forward to lots and lots of powder on the hills. So,
yeah, and if Colorado wasn't, overrun by liberals, it wouldn't be a bad place to visit,
I'll tell you what, last time I went to Colorado, I had a very nice time. I had a very, very nice time, and I suggest you try them special chocolate bars.
the special chocolate bars in the Switzerland of America.
Yeah, that was a pretty nifty place. Yeah, I wouldn't mind going back there if I had like real money.
Yeah, well, I mean, because that's the only way that you're going to be able to live there.
Yeah, it was kind of pricey. It was kind of pricey, and I don't think that there's a whole lot of entry level jobs there, so to speak.
Oh no. I mean, and that's the thing. You can't have a living wage, and
and have a nice place to live at the same time. It don't work that way.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, you're gonna be working penub.
So, yeah, I don't know. Just look. I guess the message of the evening is don't fall for any of the crap that's coming out. Your firearm is your last best and only way to say no, I don't comply. I mean, look, we already see that they're talking about overturning people's votes. It's happened in the United States before. I mean, there was a cannabis initiative in California in like '96 that the people passed, and the California Supreme Court overturned it. So your vote doesn't count. I mean, honestly, if your vote counted, they wouldn't let you do it.
Yeah. Well, and that's not the only thing, whether it's, stuff that you indulge in, whether it's, the individual firearms rights, like we were talking briefly about the concealed carry law was upheld in D.C. in terms of that it was found unconstitutional, that D.C. was trying to restrict concealed carry. So now you can conceal carry in the district. That dealt a pretty steep blow to the gun control aspirations in the district.
Well, I got a feeling that there's going to be some public pressure on that. And, I mean, look, they reverse decisions all the time. And right now they're priming us for it. I mean, like you said, thank God there weren't kids involved.
Yeah, that's the moral of the story right there.
So, I don't know. Hey, listen, before we get out of here, I just got to thank you for being here and putting up with this. We got to give a special shout out to Jules. Jules works her ass off for this, and she's really put in a whole lot of effort, especially in the last couple months. So I'd like to just give a great big heartfelt thank you to her. Gives us the opportunity to rant and say evil, horrible things, and thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And, we wouldn't be anywhere without our valued listeners and especially our listeners that hit up the chat room for UCY. We definitely like our gente, as we call them, and we appreciate you guys sticking through with us week in, week out.
That's it. So, Nick, it's been wonderful to talk to you. I really, really enjoy doing this. Let's hope that we can continue doing this. That we don't have to start going back into like 22 long rifle price updates.
Oh yeah. Hopefully we don't have to do that.
Because I couldn't find an AR-15 magazine today for less than like $20. I think I found like $18.99. Everybody, that's it. We are out at 5,000.
Patriot